Alright, we got an update on a potential DeVonta Smith extension, plus one on Kansas City's L'Jarius Sneed and why he may not be a good idea after all. And multiple teams are interested in trading for Haason Reddick, so where's Howie Roseman's head at? Also, Nolan Smith's about to get a lot more playing time, although Sirianni may disagree, so let's talk about it. But first, let's run it. What's up, guys? So let's start with Jalen Hurts, who shaved his goatee as he was in attendance at Nike's Path to Progress event in Washington, D.C. Naturally, with him being a part of the Jordan brand and being involved in the Philly community. But no, despite all the hoopla on Twitter, I'm not buying the fact that this is him conforming to the whole corporate Jalen approach.
There's not a book that is written on this is how you lead, right? People lead in different ways. Everybody has to lead their way, and Jalen has special qualities that people will follow and people will want to follow. And he's got to do what he needs to do to lead in that way. And so some people's leadership style is loud and aggressive. Some people's leadership style is by example, and some is a mixture of both. And so Jalen needs to lead how he needs to lead.
By the way, there's a ridiculous amount of leadership books out there despite whatever Nick was saying. But sure, more importantly, we want Jalen to be himself, and he will be. Honestly, I'm not worried about Jalen being impacted by peer pressure. If anything, it's Sirianni I'd be worried about.
Do I need to be liked? Absolutely not. I like to be liked. I enjoy being liked. I have to be liked. But it's not like this compulsive need to be liked, like my need to be praised.
Seriously, if anyone's gotten used to peer pressure or criticism or people doubting you, it's QB1. I mean, the dude just constantly proves people wrong. But hopefully the peer pressure does get to one guy, in that player being Kansas City's L'Jarius Sneed, since it was reported by Tony Pauling that the 27-year-old lockdown corner is being recruited by Eagles players, which makes some sense, especially after the Eagles Instagram post Sneed put out there and some players liking it. Before you say it, yes, I realize he does those posts fairly often. But getting back to the recruitment, the players identified as the leaders of the Need for Sneed campaign are Milton Williams and Boston Scott. Naturally, since the three of them played together at Louisiana Tech in college. Plus, Milton essentially came right out and confirmed it by responding with eye emojis to the report. Unfortunately, that's where this whole dream fizzles out, because not long afterward, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported that the Chiefs informed Sneed they'll be using the franchise tag and are open to a trade-out if no long-term deal is reached. By the way, Sneed was fine with it, while also being allowed to talk with other teams about a trade similar to our Haason Reddick situation. I know it's a little different, but in all honesty, I think this puts an end to the whole Sneed to Philly acquisition. I mean, because if Howie's looking at it, there's no way he's going to spend significant draft capital, or whatever you're going to trade to get him, and then also pay the dude, no matter how much you like him. Granted, you're not wrong in that Howie's done something like that before with the whole A.J. Brown situation, but this is different. I mean, think back to whenever the Rams got Jalen Ramsey from Jacksonville for 2 first-round picks and a 4th. Now, I'd say it worked out in the end because they eventually won a Super Bowl, but that's a hefty price to pay. Or just the year prior, the Chiefs moved on from corner Marcus Peters for a 2nd and 4th to LA. Curious, what do y'all think the price would be for Sneed, and more importantly, would you pay it? I should mention the more recent trade, again involving Jalen Ramsey, as he moved from LA to Miami this past year, but this time only for a 3rd-round pick and tight end Hunter Long. So I don't know, maybe with the bargain Miami got, the market isn't as inflated compared to past seasons. Either way, I don't prefer going this route, especially with the Chiefs having all the control. Which is why, personally, I'm out on the need for Sneed, unless maybe Howie Roseman can entice Kansas City and James Bradberry.
Look, this is very hard for me, but I'm going to give you my best man. You can train him. He's very, very smart and funny and charming. I can't do it.
Okay, well, apparently the GM does have plans for JB.
But when you look at JB and his history and his success as an outside corner, to ask him to do something, which is really a different position, is hard.
Don't get me wrong, Howie's a world-class negotiator, but we all know JB isn't worth anything, especially in trade value. By the way, I had several comments from people saying, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding me, Howie said that JB is a part of his plans, but watch it again and tell me you still feel that same way.
Yeah, he's under contract, part of our plans.
All right.
He couldn't get off that stage fast enough. I mean, yes, I know that it was his last question, but if I'm JB and I hear he's under contract, I'm saying to myself, yeah, I'm getting cut. Plus, as opposed to Sirianni's word salad, there's a reason why Howie Roseman wins so many trades. Like Anthony DeBona said, GMs are master manipulators and negotiators. Anyone that believes what they say is 100% true, especially publicly, is lying to themselves.
They were so convincing in their argument.
Of course, it is nice to get full transparency at times, like Buffalo's GM Brandon Beane.
I mean, we got criticized a little bit for how much we gave up for Josh, and I'm like, well, if he doesn't work out, I'm not going to be here anyway, and if he does work out, nobody's going to give
Unfortunately, it won't be as straightforward with JB, but maybe Howie tries to trade and get something back for him, although I highly doubt it. However, just in terms of contract ramifications, if the Eagles were to cut JB post June 1, it would be a dead cap hit of $17.2 million over the next 2 seasons. And sure, with that being the case, maybe it's harder to swallow, but if Howie's ready to move on to the younger guys, which we'll get to in a second, then it's not totally out of the question. Just like an extension for DeVonta Smith isn't out of the question.
Well, DeVonta's an incredible person, an incredible player, obviously homegrown, young guy. Without getting into specifics, those aren't guys that you really want to leave.
It's going to get done. It's really a matter of when. But like I've talked about with a Justin Jefferson contract extension looming and the same for CeeDee Lamb, while Detroit's Amon-Ra St. Brown is rumored to be looking at a contract of $25 million per year, you kind of want to beat the market before it gets reset. And it'll definitely serve you long-term, much like the Jalen Hurts deal did. Heck, Jalen's already 4th in terms of contract numbers, and that's only going to get better as time goes on. Oh yeah, and like Smitty said a couple times, he feels like there's another level to his game people haven't seen yet. And in Kellen Moore's offense, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Slim Reaper be even more effective. The amazing part is that somehow he's been able to be effective with a newborn on 4 hours of sleep, saying if he gets 8 hours, he'll be worthless the next day. And he fuels up on a steady diet of McDonald's.
Wait. I worry what you just heard was, give me a lot of bacon and eggs. What I said was, give me all the bacon and eggs you have.
Unfortunately, us mere mortals can't function like that, which is what makes Factor Meals, the sponsor of today's video, so great. Because if you're like me, I want to eat healthy, I just never have the time. And especially with free agency being right around the corner, I need something I can eat fast without it being fast food. Which is why I turned to Factor. Because with their 2-minute meals, I'm able to fuel up fast with restaurant quality meals that are ready to heat and eat whenever I am. And they've been a game changer when it comes to helping me stick to routines while taking the guesswork out of clean eating. In all honesty, I wasn't sure how these meals would taste, but I gotta say, they're fresh, never frozen, and after doing the math, Factor's less expensive than takeout. Plus, every meal is dietitian approved and tastes great. My favorite is the jalapeno popper burger, but there's so many options to choose from, like keto or calorie smart, protein plus, or even vegan and veggie. So get some time back and save money while eating healthy. Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code PhillySpecial50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life, which is 2 free wellness shots from 3 available flavors for every order while you're an active subscriber. That's 50% off your first Factor box and free wellness shots for life. Go to Factor75.com or click the link in the description and use code PhillySpecial50. Speaking of that wellness shot, Haason Reddick's the equivalent of that for this defense. And it's not a surprise that Sirianni would love to get a deal done, saying he's a big contributor and we'll see how it plays out, but hopefully he's an Eagle. The good news is that the last 3 guys Phillies let shop around in Darius Slay, Fletcher Cox, and Derek Barnett all ended up returning. However, Reddick might be a bit different. Despite Howie echoing the sentiment of how good he is, because Josina Anderson, as well as other media outlets, shared that several teams have reached out with significant trading interest in the 29-year-old. Seriously though, it's really just going to come down to whether or not someone wants to pay a premium for a pass rusher. Remember, over the last 4 seasons, only 3 players in Pittsburgh, TJ Watt, Cleveland's Myles Garrett, and Cincinnati's Trey Hendrickson have more sacks. Which is why, respectfully, Roseman said they're keeping everything on the up and up with Haas.
I think honest communication is the best case scenario with all your players, and understanding where you stand and not being afraid to have open doors of communication and hearing where they feel and where we feel.
Now, if you're like me, that's not the most ringing endorsement. Plus, the GM also expressed a desire to play the young guys more to get a better idea of their ability, while acknowledging with some of the older guys starting to deserve bigger contracts, they'll be shifting toward utilizing a younger roster. And sure, that's not a given that he's referencing Reddick, although Howie did specifically address Nolan Smith's role and expectations.
Kind of in retrospect, just seeing him certainly in the playoff game, one of the guys who played well in the playoff game, maybe giving him a little bit more time during the year and experience. We talked about that. He's got all the right tools in his body. He's got the right mentality. And at the same time, he's got to go out and show it. So I think that for us to play our young players, to develop them, I think that's something that Coach and I have talked about, to not be afraid of. That's why you draft them. That's why you sign them. And so you have that, and you'll have a depth chart where they'll be a little bit uncomfortable about, this guy necessarily hasn't shown it, but we believe in this player. And so I think that'll be an area for us to kind of maybe grow on.
Again, there's a couple areas where that comes into play, like Nakobe Dean, who Howie's sticking with as the green dot wearer. But getting back to Nolan, there's no question he'll play better, especially in Fangio's system where he can learn and have his athleticism fully utilized. Plus, he no doubt got better as the season went along, yet his whole nagging shoulder injury definitely scares me. However, you guys know my hype for Nolan. I mean, he's still going to be fine. You just have to be patient. No, he's not a bust. He just needs more playing time. Although Sirianni didn't exactly echo the same sentiment from Howie about playing the youth.
My philosophy has always been play the best, the guys that are going to help you win the game. Every week, regardless of whether you talk about scheme, whether you talk about players, you're trying to do whatever you can do to win the game, because that's the bottom line, is to win football games. And so whoever gives us that best chance to win a football game, that's what we'll do. Young, old, middle, it doesn't matter. We're going to do what we need to do. I owe that to our team, our our coaches and our players and our fans to play the best player that's going to help us win that week, and so we don't care who that is.
What do y'all think? I mean, first off, no one's going to say Nolan should have been playing over Haas or Josh Sweat. I think it's more so just Nolan getting a few more snaps in general. But I will say that I'm hopeful, and I think that he's going to be better. However, I know I'm stating the obvious here, but this team is much better if Haason Reddick is on it. And that's probably the case with Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelce, who Howie shared they'll wait on for a final decision about their future, but really don't want to see them in anything other than midnight green. So hopefully they're back too, or at least Kelce. Either way, though, this year's draft has to make more of an impact than last year's, and Howie agreed about trying to implement them more moving forward, which makes me wonder if the theory of offensive tackle being a lock at 22 is such a lock after all. And the Birds are meeting with Jeremiah Trotter Jr., not that he's an option at 22, but he spoke on what it would mean to play in Philly.
I've been told different things, and like the great time he had with that organization. You know, the Eagles, they're a great team, great club, and, it'd be a blessing to be able to, play for them as well. I'm just, really just, waiting for the opportunity, go wherever I go, and I'd be happy wherever I land.
I mean, that'd be really cool, but hey, you know what? I can at least appreciate the fact that they're admitting their mistakes and trying to learn from them. At the same time, I didn't just love Sirianni's response to what was the one thing he learned last season that will help avoid a loss or two from turning into a collapse.
We went through early here in 2021. We went through a really tough stretch, right? And we doubled down on the things we knew to be true, our culture, our core values, and I wouldn't say, and then we went through a tough stretch here too. And even though we said to ourselves, hey, we're doubling down on this, it didn't. In 2021, it worked, and in 2023, it didn't work. I think it's just, again, being in this constant growth mindset of things that, just always trying to get better at every style of football that you're trying to do. And then I do think though with those core values, you always double down on those, because to me, it wasn't a core values. We didn't just make them up and say, hey, connect, compete, accountability, football IQ, and fundamentals are what's important. Right, that was years and years of coaching and playing that we thought to ourselves, and I thought to myself, these are the common denominators of good football teams, and that's not changing off of a bad spurt, right? And so it is a true double down on those from day one. Doubling down on the connection, doubling down on the.
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't handle it anymore.
Here's a good idea. Have a point. It makes it so much more interesting for the listener.
I almost forgot about Sirianni's word salad since we hadn't heard from him in a month. Like, not the best response if your answer is, hey, how do you avoid the previous mistakes, is to answer by saying, double down on what we previously did. Like, yeah, the stuff that didn't work. In all seriousness, who cares what he says? It's more about the results, and Sirianni's always going to be that rah-rah cheerleader coach. Yet the main difference for me that will help avoid a cataclysmic collapse like last season is coaching changes, with Sirianni calling a meshing of systems between he and Kellen Moore. But say what you will about the Birds HC, but players love him, with the NFL Players Association report card coming out and Sirianni getting ranked 6th out of 32 head coaches, as the biggest takeaways are 100% of players feel that Sirianni is efficient with their time, and the players feel that he's very willing to listen to them in the locker room. Granted, this report did come out with players responding between late August to the early part of November, so, that's about whenever we fell off the cliff. But still, in general, the team seems happy finishing 4th out of 32 teams overall, being more than satisfied with the food and cafeteria, as well as the training staff, weight rooms, strengths coaches, and ownership, which really speaks to Jeffrey Lurie's willingness to listen and change things for his players, since remember last year the players were dissatisfied with having one of the smallest tub rooms in the league. However, Lurie upgraded the tub room last offseason, leading to a better grading. I mean, really the only areas that took a significant hit are the treatment of families, and yeah, that doesn't sound great since the Eagles are one of only 11 teams that don't provide free on-site daycare for players' families.
I'll tell you this, if this works out, I think we're looking real good. I promise you that door locks.
Oh yeah, and then the lack of personal space on flights is a buzzkill too, admitting they feel crammed while the rest of the staff sits in first class.
Oh. That feels better.
All right, that does feel like something you could get figured out. However, there is a report they started taking a separate charter flight on away games, so, trying to offset and take advantage of it. But at least you're not the Commanders, who are 32 out of 32. And for additional context, Dallas ranked 12th, while the Giants came in at 8th overall in the player survey. Obviously, this isn't an end-all be-all or a major thing. However, it's great that it's coming out now. Plus, if you're a player who's kind of weighing options between two teams, I don't know, maybe this is something that tips the scale for you. All right, quick reminder, no Friday night hangout this week, unfortunately. I'm going to be out the remainder of the week on a cruise with my bros, so I'll be back probably Monday or Tuesday. But until next time, this has been the Philly Special.